Your parking spot belongs to your sister now, my mom said, like she was passing the salt. I looked up from my plate. The table was covered in foil pans of enchiladas and a bowl of shredded lettuce that no one was touching. April dabbed at salsa on her wrist with a napkin and smiled like this was a party thrown in her honor. Dwayne scrolled on his phone, the game low on speaker. My name is Lucille. Lucy to everyone here except the clinic, I said, mostly to myself. I'm 29. I work as a phlebotomist at the community clinic on Maple. My shift starts at 5:30 a.m. most days. I pay $110 a month for a covered parking space at my building so I can actually get there on time. No one asked, but I needed my own voice in the room. Mom, Jillian, 58, and built of lists, gave me the patient smile she saves for strangers. Mija, we all know your schedule. This is just common sense. April has the kids. April is 32, my older sister by 3 years, and the kind of person who always ends up with the last slice because she's talking while she reaches. She has 2 kids, 4 and 2, and a Honda SUV with car seats and cracker crumbs in the cracks. She and Dwayne live 20 minutes away. Dad, Manuel, 60, king of projects, poured himself more iced tea and said, "It's family, Lucy." I laughed because it sounded like a joke. Nobody else did. April put her hand over her heart and said, "Thank you, seriously. Winter's been brutal, and carrying 2 kids from street parking." She trailed off, looking saintly at the casserole. "It's my lease spot," I said. I kept my voice easy. "It's assigned to my unit. It says 2B on the post. I pay for it so I can leave before dawn without hiking in the dark. You can't just reassign it." "Ungrateful," Mom muttered, soft like a prayer. "For selfish," Dad added, not unkindly, just like he was naming the weather. "It's just for today," Mom said, brighter. "Just while it gets sorted. Don't make this bigger than it is." April's smile got tighter. "I already told Dwayne to swing by after we eat. He'll park for me." "The lot by your place is so tight. I hate squeezing the stroller out when I have to parallel park." "And the pediatrician's 2 blocks from you." Dwayne looked up long enough to say, "It's not a big deal," then went back to his phone. "It's a lease," I repeated. "My name is on it." "Your sister has children, Lucy," Mom said, as if I'd missed that part. "You don't. You're flexible." Dad speared a jalapeno and sighed. "When we were your age, we didn't make everything about rules. We just helped." I could feel my shoulders creeping toward my ears. The heat sat in my chest like I'd swallowed a spoon. I thought about arguing, about describing the way the carport floods in the first rain, about the block and a half that turns into 5 when the only open street spot is past the laundromat. I thought about 4:45 a.m. alarms and the way my hands shake when I'm rushing, and how people deserve a steady hand when you're drawing their blood. Instead, I took a breath, cut into an enchilada, and asked Dad how the deck was coming along. Everyone exhaled. We ate. The kids in the den giggled at a cartoon. April took seconds. By the time I wrapped up leftovers and kissed my parents' cheeks, the sun was dragging itself down behind the jacaranda on their street. April hugged me like we were on the same team. "Thanks, baby sis," she said into my hair. "For what?" I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The drive back to my place took 13 minutes. I live in a 2-story, 12-unit building with peeling blue paint and a carport tucked under the back. Unit 2B is mine, 1 bedroom, more plants than furniture, a window that faces a brick wall that glows orange at sunset. The covered spot is under a corrugated metal roof, labeled 2B in white stencils. It keeps the frost off my windshield and the neighborhood cats off my hood. April's SUV was already in it, nose in like it lived there. I parked on the street and sat for a second with my hands on the wheel. The curb by my building was a mess. 2 long bed trucks had colonized the block, and the only open space was 5 blocks down, past the laundromat with the flickering sign. My phone buzzed from the cup holder. A new message in the family group chat. Mom's Bitmoji blowing a kiss. "Just for today," she wrote. A heart, a sparkle. I moved my car. I walked back with foil pans and a grocery bag of oranges from Dad's tree digging into my palm. The fog was coming in from the river, that fine mist that makes everything clammy. By the time I reached my building, my hairline was damp. I passed my own covered space and the SUV, the dangling plastic baby shoe on the mirror. The number 2B looked small next to April's bumper. Upstairs, I put leftovers in the fridge and set my alarm for 4:45 and 4:50, just in case. I stood at the window and listened to the distant hiss of the freeway. In my head, I heard my mom's voice. Just for today, but my windshield was already slick with dew, and the street parking was 5 blocks away. The fog sat low enough to lick my ankles when I stepped out just before 5. My breath smoked in the porch light. I locked my door, pulled my hood up, and started the walk to my car, 5 blocks down past the laundromat with the flickering sign. The oranges I took from Dad's tree were still on the counter. My windshield was beaded with dew, street lamp glow caught in the droplets. I wiped it with the old towel I keep under the seat and sat there for a second, heater on full blast, pulse thudding like I was already late. I wasn't. I got to the clinic on Maple with 10 minutes to spare. I still had damp hair and a headache edging behind my right eye. Hazel was already in, leaning on the counter with a paper cup of coffee. She has the kind of eyes that notice things. "You look like you wrestled the river," she said, not unkind. "Street parking," I said. I hung my coat on the hook and pulled on gloves. My covered spots occupied. "By who?" "Family," I said, like that explained it. "In our break room it does." She raised one eyebrow and let it go. We started the morning draws, the line already forming before the sun even thought about rising. Names, dates of birth, vacutainers. An older man who doesn't like needles, a young woman with a faded hospital bracelet, a kid who asked if his blood would be blue in the tube. I kept my hands steady and my voice soft and didn't think about frost or ladders of wet metal or the way my mom said ungrateful like a seasoning. At 9:45, between patients, I texted April. I didn't write a speech. I typed and retyped and then sent, "Please move your car from my assigned space after today." She replied with a thumbs up and a heart. Somehow that stung more than a no. Lunch was half a burrito Hazel split with me and a cup of tea I forgot to drink. Around 2, Mom dropped a photo in the family group chat. The kids at the playground, little hands gripping a slide, puffy jackets zipped to their chins. "Blessed," she captioned it. April added 3 hearts. I scrolled up to last night's Just for Today and locked my phone. By the time my shift ended, the fog had burned off into a pale sky, and everything smelled like wet concrete. I drove back to my building and swung past the carport out of habit. April's SUV was still in 2B, nose in, the dangling baby shoe rocking a little in the draft. I didn't stop. After today, I'd said, I could be generous for one day. I parked on the street again, a different 5 blocks this time. A moving truck had taken up half the curb by the laundromat, so I ended up beyond the taqueria with the hand-painted menu. I carried my work bag and a little bag of groceries back like a pack mule and told myself I was getting my steps in. Upstairs, I showered, ate leftovers, and set my alarms for 4:45 and 4:50. I went to bed early and woke up twice anyway. Tuesday morning, same routine. Hood up, streetlights humming. The towel was still damp from yesterday, so I used my sleeve to clear the corners of the windshield. I drove the long loop around the high school to avoid the one-way and hit green lights all the way to Maple like it was trying to bribe me into feeling better. You good? Hazel asked when I came in. She handed me a coffee without making a thing of it. Family stuff, I said. It'll sort. She said, uh-huh, in a way that meant she'd heard that sentence before. It was a steady day. 2 walk-ins fainted. Both came back up with orange juice and jokes. I restocked the gauze and labels twice. Between patients, I answered a message from Dad, just a link to an article about cold weather and toddlers, and sent a thumbs up back because picking that fight at work felt like lighting a match in a linen closet. After the shift, I took the long way home, hit the little hardware store for light bulbs, and treated myself to a pack of sticky notes in a cheerful yellow. I told myself April would have moved the SUV by now. After today was clear, right? A boundary in a sentence. I turned into the alley behind our building, and my stomach did a quiet, predictable drop. Her Honda was still tucked under the corrugated roof in 2B, like it had sprouted roots. The baby shoe was a white blur through the glass. I parked where I could, 4.5 blocks down this time, past a hedge that smelled like cat pee. On the walk back, I scrolled the family group chat and found Mom's message from Sunday again. Just for today, the bubble said, with a heart and a sparkle. Below it, April had replied with the selfie of the kids in the back seat, cheeks apple red, and Mom had written, anything for family. I stood on the sidewalk with my keys in my hand and realized I was the only one treating today like a real day with an end. Everyone else had turned it into a door that never closes. I stood there on the sidewalk with my keys in my hand until my fingers went numb. Then I went upstairs, put my bag down, and called April. She picked up on the second ring. Hey sis, we're just finishing dinner. What's up? My spot, I said. I kept my voice even. You said just for today on Sunday. It's Tuesday. I need you to move your SUV out of 2B tonight. She made a hum sound, like she was checking a calendar. Okay, but the kids just ate, bath, books, then bed. I'm not dragging them out. I'll swing by tomorrow after naps. I leave for work at 5, I said. My shift starts at 5:30. I need to park there tonight so I can get out in the morning. Lucy, she said, gentle and scolding at once, they're your nieces, not a mortgage. Don't be so rigid. You're good at adjusting. That's like your thing. My thing is paying for something I use, I said. I pay for that spot for this exact reason. Dwayne's voice floated in, away from the phone. Tell her we'll move it later. Then louder. We'll move it later. When? I asked. April blew out a breath. When it works with naps and snacks, okay? Maybe around 11 tomorrow. Dwayne has to switch the seats, and I've got both car seats in right now. April, I said, I've been street parking since Sunday. I'm asking you to move it tonight. Something in my tone made her bristle. You don't have kids. You don't get it. Street parking with a stroller is a nightmare. I get that, I said. I also get walking 5 blocks in the dark at 4:50 a.m. in the fog. We can trade nightmare stories, but my lease doesn't change. Okay, wow, she said. You're making this so intense. I'm being clear, I said. Hold on, she said. Then the line clicked and the tone changed. Mom's on. Mia? Mom's voice came warm and full like a blanket you didn't ask for. We heard there's a misunderstanding. There isn't, I said. My spot is assigned to me. I need April to move her car tonight. Dad's voice joined, a little fuzzy like he was on speaker across the room. Your sister needs help. You're flexible, Lucy. You've always been the one who can roll with things. I can roll with a lot, I said. I'm not rolling my car 5 blocks at 5 in the morning because you decided my spot belongs to someone else. Silence, then Mom's sigh. Don't embarrass the family with this. It's just parking. If it's just parking, I said, then it's not a big deal for April to move. That's not the point, Dad said. The point is, we help each other. Dwayne again, faint. This is dumb. April came back full force. We'll move it later, she repeated, and her voice had that finality that used to end arguments when we were kids. I can't do it tonight. The kids are in pajamas. I'm not waking them up for this. I looked at the clock over my stove. 6:32. Okay, I said. I'm telling you what I need. I'll document that I asked. Document? April laughed. What are you? A hall monitor? Good night, I said, and hung up before my voice shook. I made a grilled cheese because I needed something simple to do with my hands. When the sizzle died, I grabbed a pen and one of the yellow sticky notes I'd picked up at the hardware store and wrote, Hi, this is Lucy in 2B. This is my assigned paid space. Please move this vehicle today. Thank you. I carried it downstairs with a piece of packing tape. The carport smelled like dust and oil. The baby shoe dangled from the mirror, scuffed white. I smoothed the note under the wiper, took a step back, and snapped photos. The plate, the 2B stencil on the post, the SUV in the frame. My phone stamped at 7:18 p.m. Tuesday. I took another at 7:19, just to have two. Back upstairs, I dropped the photos into a folder I named Parking and typed a line in the Notes app. 7:18 p.m., left note on windshield. Called April at 6:23, asked to move tonight. Refused. It felt both ridiculous and necessary. I set my alarms for 4:45 and 4:50 and put my clothes out like a kid on the first day of school. When I lay down, the building creaked the way it always does when the night temperature drops. I thought about Mom saying, "Don't embarrass the family," and about Dad calling me flexible, like it was a compliment and a job assignment. I closed my eyes and slept like I was guarding something. The alarm rolled me out of bed into the dark. I pulled on my hoodie, grabbed my keys, and went down the steps 2 at a time. The air had that wet metal taste. When I rounded the corner into the carport, the SUV's windshield looked clean except for a faint wet smear where tape had been. My note was gone. Not on the ground, not tucked under the blade, just a crescent of glue residue and a slur of dissolved ink like it had been wiped with a sleeve. I took another photo, 4:56 a.m., Wednesday. Then my phone buzzed in my palm. A text from Mom, timestamp 10:41 p.m., the night before, right after I'd finally knocked out. Love you, but stop embarrassing the family. I stared at it with my gloves on, the screen glowing cold blue on my face, and felt the word family like a bruise I kept bumping into. After my shift, I went straight to the cabinet under my sink and slid out the plastic file box. It smelled like paper and dish soap. I flipped through tax folders and appliance manuals until I hit the lease, dog-eared from the day I signed it. I sat on the kitchen floor and read until the paragraph I needed stared back at me in small, polite font. Parking. One space assigned to Unit 2B. Unauthorized vehicles subject to towing at vehicle owner's expense after 24-hour written notice. Authorized towing provider posted on premises. Management authorization required. My stomach went from knot to something harder. I took a photo of the page, then scanned it with my phone so it looked official. I added Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and this morning's photos to an email draft. I typed out dates and times and what I'd done. It looked clinical on the screen, which helped. Subject, Unit 2B assigned parking. Unauthorized vehicle in space. 2B, hi Caitlin. I'm a tenant in 2B. My assigned covered space, labeled 2B, has been occupied by my sister's vehicle since Sunday evening. Make, model, plate attached. I pay monthly for this spot. I left a polite note last night, now removed, and asked her to move the car multiple times. Per the lease, unauthorized vehicles are subject to towing with 24-hour notice. Please confirm the process and the authorized towing company. Photos and the lease page are attached. Thank you, Lucille Hernandez. Unit 2B phone number. I hit send and sat at my tiny table with a glass of water. I didn't drink. I could hear the upstairs heater kick on and off. The building smelled faintly like rice from someone's dinner. My phone buzzed a little later. Caitlin's reply was efficient. Hi, Lucille. Thanks for the detailed information. You're within your rights per the lease. Our authorized towing provider is Valley Tow and Recovery. Their 24/7 dispatch number is number. For private party towing from assigned spaces, we require 1. 24-hour written notice to the vehicle owner, driver with a clear deadline. 2. Timestamp photo documentation before and after the 24 hours. And 3. You present at time of tow with ID. I've noted your account, and management authorizes tow after the notice period if the vehicle remains. Let me know if you need anything else. Best, Caitlin Lopez, property manager, I breathed out. I printed her email and the lease page at the grocery store printer last month when my ink ran out. I fished those copies out of the file box and stacked them by my keys. I opened a new note on my phone and typed, Lease supports tow 2024 HR written notice. Management authorization received 2:41 p.m. Working. A knock on my door made me jump. I checked the peephole. Joey from downstairs stood there in a hoodie and socks, arms wrapped around himself like he'd stepped out without thinking. Hey, I said, opening up. Sorry, he said. I don't mean to bug you. I'm Joey, 1A. We've waved. I noticed the SUV in your spot. You good? Working on it, I said. It's my sister's. He grimaced in solidarity. Ah, I can keep an eye out if you want timestamps. I get home around 7 most nights. I saw it Sunday when I took out the trash, Monday when I got back from the gym, last night when DoorDash took forever. That helps, I said. Only if it's not extra for you. It's not, he said. I just hate when people get walked on. Also, the tow signs are right there. He jerked his chin toward the carport. So, it's not a surprise rule. Thanks, I said. I typed while he talked. Joey, 1A, saw SUV in 2B Sunnight. Kiao was 8. Mon, Jiao 7, 15. 2, Jiao Xiao 30. He gave me a thumbs up like he'd seen me do it. Cool, he said. Good luck. After he left, I made a plan. I cleaned the kitchen because my hands needed a task. At 5:30, I walked down and took a photo of the SUV in my spot with the timestamp. I took a second of the posted sign by the carport entrance with the Valley Tow and Recovery number on it, just to have it. I parked on the street again and took a photo of my car by the hedge that smells like cat pee, the taqueria sign glowing behind it, so no one could say I was making it up. Back upstairs, I drafted the message to the family group chat 3 times. I removed any extras until it read like a sign. Please move April's SUV from my assigned space, 2B, by 6 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday. Per my lease, unauthorized vehicles are subject to towing with 24-hour written notice. After 6 p.m. tomorrow, the vehicle will be towed at the owner's expense. Attaching the lease clause and today's photo. I attached the lease paragraph and a photo of the SUV under the 2B stencil with the 5:30 time in the corner. I checked the clock. 5:59. I waited for the seconds to tick, then hit send at 6 gongs exactly. The little delivered popped up in blue, then read under Mom's name, then Dad's, then April's. 3 dots appeared like someone was typing, disappeared, came back. A thumbs-up reaction from Dad landed on the lease photo like he hadn't read the words. April replied first, Lucy, OMG dramatic. Then 3 more crying, laughing faces. Mom added, Mija, this is not necessary. And someone, April again, probably, reacted with the ha 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 to my deadline. I took a screenshot and dropped it into the parking folder. Down the hall, someone's TV laughed canned laughter at something I couldn't hear. I set my alarms for 4:45 and 4:50, slid the printed lease and Caitlin's email into my tote, and put my keys on top of the stack so I wouldn't forget. The read receipts kept popping up one by one, and then the laughing emojis arrived like confetti. I put my phone face down and let the room go quiet around me. By 9 a.m., my phone had its own pulse. Buzz. Lucy, relax. Buzz. Be generous, it's a season. Buzz. Think of the children. I set it face down next to the printer labels and kept calling names from the waiting room. When I took a breath between draws, Hazel slid a coffee toward me. You look like you're being pecked to death by ducks, she said. Family group chat, I said. Plus side texts. She watched me swipe and delete a few without opening them. You don't need permission to keep what you pay for, she said. You gave notice. Do what you said you'd do. I know, I said, and felt my shoulders drop a notch. The day went long anyway. A physician sent down a stack of add-on labs at 3. A new trainee asked me to check her order of draw. My phone kept trying to get my attention. Mom, we raised you better than this. Dad, a thumbs up on my lease screenshot, then call us. April, you're being ridiculous. No one said, we're moving it. At lunch, I ate half a turkey sandwich in the break room and ordered a bright orange folding cone online. Then changed my mind, canceled, and walked to the hardware store on the next block after my shift. $25. It was so neon it looked like a traffic cartoon. I carried it home like I was adopting a small, loud pet. The SUV was still snug under my corrugated roof when I turned into the alley. The little plastic baby shoe twitched. I could feel the 6 p.m. deadline like a number on the inside of my wrist. Upstairs, I set the cone by my front door so I wouldn't forget it later and just stood there looking at it, absurd and hopeful. I put Caitlin's printed email and the lease page into my tote with my ID and a pin. I plugged in my phone so it wouldn't die at the worst moment. Then I went back down at 5:50 with the cone tucked under my arm and my hand steady enough to take photos. I took a time-stamped shot of the Honda in 2B with the 2B stencil in frame. 5:50 p.m., Thursday. I stepped back and took another of the tow sign with Valley Tow and Recovery's number. I walked out to the street and took a photo of my car 2 blocks down, framed it with the taqueria's hand-painted menu and the chipped blue hydrant so you could tell where it was. The birds in the ficus by the alley were so loud it felt like they were narrating. Back in the carport, I set the cone at the head of my space like a promise to myself. When this is over, this will sit here. I checked the time again, 5:57. My phone buzzed with a call from Mom. I let it go to voicemail. A text popped up from her while the call was still ringing. Mija, we can talk this out. 3 dots from April. Nothing came through from her. Then a text from Dad. We're on our way. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb and opened the clock app anyway. I set a timer for 10 minutes and felt my pulse catch up to it. 5:59. A breeze curled through the carport and flipped the corner of an old flyer on the bulletin board. Somewhere a neighbor's TV laughed. I could hear my own breath. The Honda sat there like it had a deed. 6 p.m. came and went. Nothing happened, which is its own kind of happening. My timer ticked. I took another photo at 6:31. The birds chattered about it like gossip. At 6:01, my mom's name lit the screen. I watched it ring out. At 6:02, April called. I watched that one too. At 6:03, Dad. I let them stack in voicemail while my hands dialed the number Caitlin had sent. Valley Tow and Recovery Dispatch, a woman's voice said. Hi, I said. I'm calling from 214 Emerson, Unit 2B. I have an unauthorized vehicle in my assigned space with 24-hour notice given. Management authorization on file. I need a tow. She asked for the plate, make, model, my name, and told me a driver was 10 to 15 out. You'll need to present your lease excerpt or authorization when he arrives, she said. I have both, I said. Okay. He'll call when he's on your street. I hung up and texted Caitlin a quick heads up. Calling Valley Tow now for 6 p.m. tow per notice. She replied with a simple, noted. Upstairs, I grabbed my tote and a light sweater because the fog was starting to creep back in. On my way down, Joey opened his door like he'd been listening for footsteps. It's happening, he asked, half a smile. At 6,000 it did, I said. Tow's on the way. Good, he said. You need a witness, text me. Thanks, I said. Back under the corrugated roof, I checked everything again because that's what calmed me. Lease page, check. Email from Caitlin, check. Photos with timestamps lined up in my parking folder. The cone bright against the oil-stained concrete. My phone stayed quiet with the Do Not Disturb moon lit up, but every few seconds it trembled with a filtered buzz. Voicemails dropping, probably. A text from Dwayne flashed through because he wasn't in my favorites. Don't do this. I put the screen down on the hood of my car and watched the alley mouth for headlights. The ficus went from chatter to a calmer hum. Someone closed a window upstairs. My heart finally moved from my ears back into my chest. I wasn't threatening to tow children. I wasn't threatening anything. I was following my lease, the one I pay for, the one with my unit number painted in white on the post. At 612, far end of the block, tow lights blinked once like a wink and turned into the alley. I held my tote by the handles and waited for the part where my boundary would have a sound. The truck eased into the alley with its amber bar rolling, then clicked to red as it backed toward the carport. The driver climbed down like he'd done it 1,000 times. He wore a navy beanie and a jacket with reflective tape. His clipboard was already in his hand. Evening, he said. Valley Tow. I'm Jarvis. Lucy, I said. Unit 2B. He glanced where I pointed. That the vehicle? He read the plate without getting too close, eyes flicking to the 2B stencil on the post, then to the tow sign at the entrance. He took his own photos, plate, stall number, sign. You have your lease excerpt and ID? I handed him the printed lease paragraph and Caitlin's email. He scanned them, then my ID. You the tenant of record, okay. He radioed dispatch with the plate, address, and a code that sounded routine. I'll need your signature on a private property impound form, he said, flipping his clipboard. It authorizes the tow from your assigned space. Yards at 4th and Grant if the owner calls you. I signed where he indicated, hands steadier than I expected. My phone buzzed against the hood of my car. A text from Dwayne pushed through the Do Not Disturb filter like it wanted a fight. Don't you dare. I put the phone face down again. Jarvis crouched by the SUV, looked under it, and stood. Front wheel drive? He asked, mostly to himself. We'll go front lift. He backed the truck in with an economy of motion that slid metal under metal without scraping anything. The wheel lift tucked under the SUV's front tires like a jaw. He set the brake, tossed a safety chain, and slid on a pair of gloves. The corrugated roof pinged as the evening damp settled on it. Before I pick it up, you got a deadline noted? He asked, checking boxes on the form. Sent 24-hour notice to the owner at 6 p.m. yesterday, I said. I showed him the message with the time stamp. He nodded and took a photo of the screen with his phone. A filtered call buzzed sharp in my pocket. Voicemail again. Then April's text lit up. We're 5 minutes away. In my mind, I could see them hustling into shoes, car seats clicking, a scramble they could have avoided all day. I didn't type back. Jarvis didn't look at my phone. He knelt to place the rubber pads just so, and then stood, giving me space. You're sure this is yours? he asked, more as a final check than a challenge. It's assigned, I said. I pay for it. I left a note. I've asked her to move it since Sunday. Okay, he said. He didn't add anything to it, just folded the story into his pile of facts. He stepped to the controls, and the lift hummed. The front of the Honda rose a few inches, then a few more. He tightened straps over the tires with a practiced ratchet. The baby shoe on the mirror swayed, a small pendulum. Another text from April. We're literally turning onto Emerson. Please stop. A third. Just hold him. We're right there. Dwayne, don't touch my car. I thought about all the times I'd said later, and later had turned into never. I thought about the walk to my car in the fog and the towel under my seat, and the 5-block trudge with groceries biting my fingers. I didn't think about anything else. Do you need me to call management? I asked Jarvis, even though I had the email. Nope, he said. I've got authorization noted and the sign posted. Everything's in order. He checked around the SUV one more time, looking for loose items that might fall. You want to grab anything out of it for them? He asked, courteous. I'm not touching it, I said. Fair, he said. He climbed into the cab, flicked the red bar on fully, and eased the truck into reverse. The lift groaned, then steadied. The Honda's front tires hung just off the ground like it was holding its breath. Joey appeared at the top of the stairs, hands in his hoodie pocket. He didn't say anything, just gave me a small nod like a witness at a courthouse. My phone buzzed again, Mom this time. Mia, wait, don't do this to your sister. Another call from Dad hit, then stopped. The air felt thicker. I could smell the faint, hot metal scent of the tow rig and the wet concrete under it. Jarvis hopped down one last time, checked the chains, and looked at me. You're good? He asked. I'm good, I said. It was true, and it made my stomach flip. He lifted a hand in a small salute and climbed back in. The truck's engine deepened, the hydraulics hissed, and the Honda rose the last few inches onto the wheel lift. Somewhere in the distance, a car horn honked twice. I could imagine the sedan making the turn off the main road, the way Dwayne drives too fast in alleys because he thinks rules happen to other people. Jarvis, dispatch crackled over his radio. He answered, short and calm. Copy, rolling. The truck pulled forward. The red lights washed the carport wall, then my legs, then the cone I'd set at the head of my space. The 2B stencil glowed and then fell back into shadow as the rig inched out. April's last text popped up, frantic. We're there. Stop. The hook held steady. The truck cleared the alley mouth and turned left, taillights smearing red across the brick. I stood there with my tote strap biting my palm and felt two things at once. Powerful, like I'd pushed something heavy into motion, and sick, like it could still roll back over me. The tow lights flashed red against the complex wall as the SUV lifted, and I realized the part of me that always backed down just got hauled off with it. The red washed off the wall, and the alley went back to gray. I was still standing there with my tote when a sedan whipped into the alley mouth and braked hard. Dwayne was at the wheel. April was already out before the car stopped moving, hair loose, eyes furious. Where is it? She demanded, like I'd hit a puppy. Call him back. He's already gone, I said. I kept my voice level. Here. I pulled the private property impound form from my tote. Jarvis had torn off a yellow copy for me with the yard address and number and held it out. This is the yard's number and the address, 4th and Grant. April didn't take it. You're unbelievable, she said, voice going high at the end. We were 5 minutes away. You could have waited. You could have been a sister. I gave you 24 hours, I said. Dwayne got out slower, like he was containing something hot. This is predatory, he said, gesturing to the empty space like a lawyer presenting a crime scene. We'll get it back and you're paying for it. I'm not, I said. I held the paper a little closer to April until she snatched it. All the info is there. You'll need the plate and your ID. She stared at the form like it was written in a language she hated. Call the tow guy, she said. Tell him to turn around. That's not how it works, I said. He's en route to the yard. If you'd been here before he left the property, he could have dropped it for a fee. He's gone. Dwayne swore under his breath and jabbed at his phone. What's the number? He said, even though it was in April's hand. She read it off anyway, shaking. He put it on speaker. Valley Tow and Recovery, a woman answered, neutral like a receptionist at a dentist. Our car was just towed from 214 Emerson, Dwayne said. We're the owners. How much to get it back? There was a pause while keys clicked. Plate? She asked. He gave it. It's in the system. Current tow fee is $285 plus storage after midnight. We're open until 10. $285? April's voice climbed again. For parking? That's theft. These are municipal rates, the woman said. Payment is cash or card. You'll need ID and proof of ownership. Dwayne hung up without a goodbye. Predatory, he said again, like if he kept saying it, it would turn into a refund. My phone buzzed in my pocket, Mom's face, then Dad's, alternating like a metronome. I swiped their call away and texted them a photo of the lease clause and my 6:00 p.m. notice from yesterday, then tapped the little bell on the family thread to mute it. Do not disturb lit up. The quiet felt like a door clicking shut. April rounded on me. You made this a thing, she said. Over a parking space, over a stroller, over your nieces. I made it clear, I said. You decided not to move your car. She scoffed, eyes wet but angry. I have kids, Lucy. I have a job, I said, at 5:30 in the morning. Joey had come down as quietly as a cat and was leaning in his doorway, arms crossed. He didn't say anything, but the witness of him made me feel steadier. Dwayne clocked him and scowled. You the neighbor, he said. Mind your business. Joey lifted a shoulder. She asked me to keep an eye out. That's my business. Dwayne shook his head and paced a few steps, like he needed to move or break something. We're calling your manager, he said to me. She can tell you this is insane. She already did, I said. In writing. He walked a few feet away and dialed Caitlin. I could hear only his side, loud and clipped. Yeah, I'm calling about a tenant, my sister-in-law, who just towed my car out of spite. You authorized this? A pause. His face changed from confident to cornered. What do you mean, per lease? Another pause. No, we didn't get written notice. April held up her phone with my message on it, the timestamp clear. Dwayne looked at it and spoke quieter. That's not... We didn't think she'd actually do it. He listened again, jaw working. It's predatory. He rolled his eyes at whatever Caitlin said next. Yeah, we'll take it up with the tow yard, he finished, and hung up harder than he needed to. What did she say? April asked. That her hands are clean, he said. That the sign's posted. That Lucy gave notice. That if we have a problem, we can call the city. Or the tow yard. April looked back at the empty space like it would argue with her. I can't believe you did this to me, she said, pointing at her chest like she was reminding me where to look, after everything I do for this family. I didn't list anything I do. I didn't say anything about oranges or leftovers or rides home after a root canal. I stepped past them, lifted my cone from where I'd set it at the head of the space, and centered it in the middle of 2B. It looked ridiculous and perfect, a small triangle in an empty square. I'm going upstairs, I said. The number's on the paper. April made a noise like a laugh and a sob. Don't bother coming on Sunday, she said. We'll see if you like eating alone. I'll come when I'm invited, I said. It surprised me how even it came out. They stalked back to their sedan. Tires hissed on wet asphalt as they pulled out of the alley. I could see Dwayne's hands tight on the wheel. The taillights pinched and were gone. I locked the gate behind me and went upstairs. The quiet in my apartment felt new, almost fragile, like a glass of water filled to the brim. I set my tote down, turned my phone over, and watched the muted family thread stack up little gray ones. I put my phone on the dresser and let the room be still. Later, curiosity got me. I opened my messages. A new email from Caitlin sat there. FYI, spoke with family member who called the office, confirmed you provided proper notice and are authorized reassigned space. Tow fees are set by provider per posted signage. Let me know if further issues arise. I replied with a quick thank you and closed it. Before bed, I went downstairs once more. The alley was quiet enough to hear the freeway hiss. My cone stood in 2B like a thin lighthouse. I touched it, felt its hollow plastic give, and went back up. The next morning, the space was empty, waiting. I turned the wheel and slid my car under the corrugated roof, the 2B stencil lining up with my hood like it had been waiting for this exact shape. It fit like a key in the right lock. I slept like a door had been closed. No middle of the night listen for footsteps, no fight rehearsal in my head. I woke up before my alarm, made coffee, and drove straight down the alley into my own space. The 2B on the post lined up with my hood, and nothing in me tightened. At the clinic, Hazel took one look at me and grinned. You look like you got a new pillow. I got my spot back, I said. She held up her palm. I slapped it and laughed once. Quick. You enforce something, and the world doesn't end, she said, handing me a cup. Imagine. Mid-morning, my phone buzzed with a filtered text from Dwayne that still slid through. We had to pay $285 tonight. You owe us. I stared at it, saved it to the parking folder like everything else, and replied once. I gave 24 HR written notice per lease. Attaching clause again. I sent the image of the paragraph and Caitlin's email and put my phone back on Do Not Disturb. He didn't reply. At lunch, I wrote the last message I planned to send for a while. I kept it simple. Going forward, visits to my place are by invite only. Please call before coming by. Thanks. I sent it to the family thread. I watched the delivered pop and then flipped the mute switch again. 30 seconds later, Mom sent a single dot, like she'd started typing and didn't know what to write. Nothing else came through. On my way home, I emailed Caitlin a small question. Is it okay if I place a small folding cone in my assigned space when I'm not parked, as a visual reminder? She replied 2 minutes later. That's fine, as long as it doesn't block access or create a hazard. If issues continue, let me know. I wrote cone okayed by MGMT in my notes and felt ridiculous and proud. The SUV wasn't anywhere near the building when I turned in. I set the cone at the head of 2B anyway, bright and silly under the corrugated roof. Joey walked past with a bag of takeout and gave me a thumbs up without breaking stride. In his doorframe, he said, "Looks good," and disappeared into 1A. That night, no calls. The next morning, I slid into my space and drove out before dawn. No fog in my throat, no extra blocks to add to the day. At the clinic, Hazel handed me a coffee and didn't bring it up again, which was the best kind of support. Saturday, Dad sent me a link to an article about boundary setting that I'm pretty sure he didn't read. I didn't bite. April texted once, "You made me look bad." I didn't reply. Mom sent a photo of the kids at the park. I sent back 2 hearts and nothing else. The thread stayed quiet. Sunday morning, Mom called at 9. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. "Mija, lunch at 2 if you want to come. If not, we love you." No extra commentary, no lecture. I sat with that for a minute and texted back, Thanks for the invite. I'm staying home today. See you another time. She sent back, okay, and a heart. The week rolled. I parked where I paid to park. I folded the cone down and tucked it behind the post when I was home so it wasn't in anyone's way, then set it back out when I left. Nothing tested it. The alley smelled like wet dust. The ficus kept up its gossip. 2 separate afternoons I saw the sedan roll down the alley slow, then speed up before it reached my spot. No one got out. Midweek, Caitlin forwarded me a maintenance notice about power washing the carport. The line at the bottom made me smile. Please remove personal items, cones, etc., from spaces during the wash window. I replied, will do. Thanks. The next Sunday, I drove to my parents in the afternoon with a casserole dish of rice and beans and a container of cut oranges. I parked on their street, sat for a second, then went in. It was quieter than most Sundays. April and Dwayne weren't there. Mom hugged me and didn't say anything about parking. Dad asked about my car's oil change, like it was the most natural thing. We ate. It was fine. When Mom started to say family in a tone I recognized, she stopped herself, handed me more salad, and asked about my plants instead. I stayed an hour and left when I was ready. Back at my building, the alley was sunlit in that late afternoon way where even the peeling paint looks intentional. The cone was where I'd left it. Joey was airing out a rug on the rail. He lifted his chin in hello. I folded the cone, popped it into my trunk, and stood for a second with the key in my hand. I realized I hadn't needed the cone yet. The bright plastic had said what I needed, but mostly it was the follow-through that did the talking. Monday morning came with its old rhythm, but a new weightlessness. I woke up before my alarm again, surrounded by the regular creaks of my building and the smell of coffee blooming. I locked my door, took the steps 2 at a time, and walked straight to my car under the corrugated roof. The 2B on the post caught the light. My hands didn't shake. I set my bag on the passenger seat, turned the key, and felt the quiet space I'd made around my life hold.